Have you ever felt like your emotions are completely controlled by external circumstances? One moment you're at peace and the next something happens. A harsh comment, a setback at work, a sudden change, and your mood shifts instantly. But what if I told you that true emotional stability doesn't come from fixing the outside world, but from mastering your inner world? According to Buddhist wisdom, our emotions are like waves on the ocean, constantly rising and falling. But beneath those waves there is always a deep, unshaken stillness. That stillness is your true nature, and today we're going to explore how to tap into it. How can you cultivate a mindset that keeps you from being tossed around by every challenge life throws your way? How can you maintain inner peace and positivity, no matter what's happening around you? Stick with me because in this video we're diving deep into powerful Buddhist principles that will help you free yourself from the grip of negative emotions. Develop an unshakable sense of peace and joy. Train your mind to respond, not react to life's ups and downs. And here's the best part. You don't need years of meditation experience or a spiritual retreat in the mountains to achieve this. These are simple yet transformative practices you can apply right now in your daily life. So, before we begin, let me ask you, what emotion do you struggle with the most? Is it stress, anger, fear, or sadness? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you find this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss out on more insights like this. Let's get started. Understanding emotions through Buddhist wisdom in our daily lives. Emotions seem to control us. One moment we're happy and the next frustration, sadness, or anxiety takes over. But what if we could experience emotions without being consumed by them? According to Buddhist teachings, emotions are impermanent. They arise, exist for a time, and then fade away. The problem is not the emotions themselves but our attachment to them. The impermanence of emotions. Buddhism teaches that everything in life is impermanent, including emotions. No feeling, no matter how intense, lasts forever. Joy, sadness, anger, and fear. Each emotion has a beginning and an end. The trouble starts when we resist this natural flow. We cling to happiness trying to prolong it, or we resist sadness hoping it will disappear instantly. But emotions, like waves in the ocean, come and go on their own. Think about the last time you were really angry. In the heat of the moment, it felt overwhelming. But did that feeling last forever? Or did it gradually fade? Perhaps you calmed down after a few minutes, an hour, or a day. The anger itself wasn't permanent. It changed just as all things do. The same goes for happiness. You might have felt joyful after hearing good news, but did that feeling last unchanged for weeks or months? Probably not. This understanding is key to emotional balance. When we realize that emotions are temporary, we don't get carried away by them. Observing emotions without attachment. The core of Buddhist practice is awareness. Learning to observe emotions without getting caught up in them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can step back and notice our emotions like an outside observer. Imagine watching a movie. When you're deeply engaged, you feel every twist and turn as if it's happening to you. But if you take a step back and remind yourself, this is just a story, you create distance. The same applies to emotions. When you feel anger, instead of saying, I am angry, try shifting to, there is anger in me right now. This small change creates space between you and the emotion. You are not your anger. You are simply experiencing it, and like a passing storm, it will eventually clear. Emotions are like passing clouds. Buddhist teachings often compare emotions to clouds moving across the sky. The sky itself is vast, unchanging, and unaffected by passing clouds, no matter how dark or stormy they seem. In the same way, your true nature, your inner awareness, is steady and peaceful beneath the surface. Emotions come and go, but they don't define you. Think about times when you've experienced sadness or anxiety. In the moment, it felt all-encompassing, but eventually, it lifted just like clouds clearing after a storm. The key is to let emotions move naturally without resisting or clinging. When we try to hold on to happiness or push away sadness, we create unnecessary suffering. Imagine you're holding onto a rope and someone is pulling it from the other side. The tighter you grip, the more painful it becomes. But the moment you let go, the struggle ends. Emotions work the same way. Instead of Wrestling with them, we can acknowledge them, allow them to be, and let them pass in their own time. How to apply this in daily life? Understanding emotions intellectually is one thing, but applying this wisdom in daily life is what truly brings peace. Here are 3 simple practices you can use. Pause and breathe. When a strong emotion arises, pause for a moment before reacting. Take a deep breath and simply observe the feeling. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Often, emotions arise as signals. Anger might indicate a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might point to something unresolved. Instead of pushing them away, acknowledge their presence. Label the emotion. Neuroscience backs up what Buddhism has taught for centuries. Naming your emotions reduces their intensity. Instead of saying, I feel awful, try something more specific. I am feeling anxious, or there is frustration arising. This creates distance between you and the emotion, making it easier to handle. Let it flow without clinging. If you feel happiness, enjoy it fully, but don't expect it to stay forever. If you feel sadness, let yourself feel it without trying to suppress it. Every emotion is like a guest. It arrives, stays for a while, and then leaves. Your job is to welcome it without attachment. The power of emotional awareness. Buddhism doesn't teach us to suppress emotions. It teaches us to understand them. By recognizing emotions as temporary, we free ourselves from their control. When we observe emotions instead of reacting blindly, we gain inner freedom. So next time you feel overwhelmed, remember, emotions are just passing clouds. You are the sky, vast, calm, and untouched. Observing the mind and practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness. The key to emotional awareness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, observing thoughts and emotions without judgment. According to Buddhist wisdom, suffering arises not from emotions themselves but from our resistance or attachment to them. When we practice mindfulness, we can recognize emotions as they arise, creating space between our awareness and the emotion itself. This space allows us to respond with wisdom rather than react impulsively. Recognizing emotions without getting lost in them. Negative emotions, anger, fear, anxiety, sadness, can feel overwhelming when we identify too strongly with them. The problem is not the emotion but how we engage with it. If we react without awareness, we become trapped in the emotion, feeding it with our thoughts. But if we observe it with mindfulness, we can acknowledge its presence without being controlled by it. Buddhist teachings often use the metaphor of a guest visiting your home. Emotions are like guests. Some are pleasant, some are difficult, but none of them stay forever. Instead of slamming the door on negative emotions or letting them take over your house, mindfulness teaches us to acknowledge their presence, understand their nature, and allow them to pass naturally. The power of pausing and breathing. When a strong emotion arises, our habitual response is to act on it immediately, raising our voice in anger, shutting down in sadness, or spiraling into anxious thoughts. Mindfulness introduces a different approach. Pause, take a deep breath, and observe. 1. Pause. Before reacting, stop for a moment. Recognize that you are experiencing an emotion but you are not the emotion itself. 2. Breathe. Take a deep breath. Breathing mindfully helps calm the nervous system, creating a sense of space between you and the emotion. 3. Observe. Notice the physical sensations that come with the emotion: tightness in the chest, heat in the face, or a racing heartbeat. Observe the thoughts arising in response to the feeling. This simple process interrupts automatic reactions, allowing us to respond with clarity rather than impulse. Emotions as passing clouds. Buddhist teachings compare emotions to clouds moving across the sky. The sky itself remains unchanged regardless of the storm or the sunshine. In the same way, our awareness, our true nature, is constant beneath the shifting emotions. Instead of saying, I am angry, try saying, there is anger in me right now. This small shift in language creates distance between you and the emotion. You are not your anger, you are simply experiencing it. This awareness prevents emotions from taking control. Welcoming emotions without attachment. When an emotion arises, instead of fighting it or getting lost in it, welcome it as a temporary visitor. You don't have to push it away or hold on to it, just observe. 1. Label it. Research shows that naming an emotion reduces its intensity. Instead of saying, I feel terrible, be specific, I feel anxious, or I feel frustrated. This clarity helps the mind process the emotion without resistance. 2. Notice its impermanence. Every emotion, no matter how strong, will pass. Think of times in the past when you were upset. Did the feeling last forever? Or did it eventually fade? Remembering impermanence helps you let go of emotional resistance. 3. Let it flow. Instead of suppressing emotions, allow them to move naturally. Like a river, emotions are always flowing. Holding on to them is like trying to stop water with your hands. It only creates more struggle. Mindfulness in daily life. Practicing mindfulness isn't limited to meditation. It can be integrated into everyday activities. Mindful walking. Pay attention to each step. Feel the ground beneath you, the movement of your body, and the rhythm of your breath. This simple practice brings you back to the present. Mindful eating. Instead of eating while distracted, slow down. Notice the flavors, textures, and sensations of each bite. This deepens awareness and appreciation. Mindful listening. When speaking with others, give them your full attention. Notice how often the mind wants to interrupt or form a response before the other person finishes speaking. Practicing mindful listening strengthens presence and connection. The freedom of non-attachment. Mindfulness teaches us to engage with emotions without attachment. When we cling to happiness, we suffer when it fades. When we resist sadness, we create unnecessary struggle. The middle path is to experience emotions fully, knowing they are temporary. By observing emotions rather than reacting blindly, we free ourselves from their control. Mindfulness gives us the ability to witness emotions with clarity, respond with wisdom, and live with a deep sense of inner peace. Letting go of negativity to cultivate positivity. The root of negative emotions, regret, resentment, fear, and anxiety, often stem from our attachment to the past or our worries about the future. When we dwell on past mistakes or painful experiences, we trap ourselves in suffering that no longer exists. When we obsess over the uncertainties of the future, we create stress about things that may never happen. Buddhism teaches that peace can only be found in the present moment. The past is unchangeable and the future is unpredictable. Holding on to what we cannot control leads to unnecessary suffering. Letting go is not about forgetting or ignoring difficulties but about releasing the emotional weight that prevents us from experiencing inner peace. The power of letting go. Letting go is a conscious choice to stop carrying emotional burdens that do not serve us. It does not mean suppressing emotions but rather accepting them, learning from them, and then moving forward. 1. Forgiveness. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful actions. It means freeing yourself from the pain of holding on. 2. Releasing regret. Mistakes are part of growth. Instead of replaying past failures, focus on what they taught you. Use them as stepping stones rather than chains. 3. Surrendering control. Many of our fears come from wanting to control everything. Accept that uncertainty is a part of life. Trust that, just as nature flows in harmony, your life will unfold as it should. Living in the present moment. When we are truly present, negative emotions lose their grip on us. The mind cannot be in two places at once. If we focus on the present, we cannot be trapped in the past or lost in the future. Mindful breathing. The breath is always in the present. When negative thoughts arise, return to your breath. Inhale deeply, feeling the air enter your lungs. Exhale slowly, letting go of tension. Gratitude practice. Instead of focusing on what is missing or what went wrong, shift your attention to what you have. Gratitude transforms your perspective and opens your heart to positivity. Sensory awareness. Engage fully with your surroundings. Notice the warmth of sunlight, the sound of the wind, or the taste of your food. The more you immerse yourself in the present, the less room there is for negativity. The impermanence of emotions. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that all things, including emotions, are impermanent. No matter how intense a feeling is, it will pass. Sadness, anger, and fear are like waves in the ocean. They rise and fall, but they never last forever. 1. Recognize the temporary nature of emotions. When you feel overwhelmed, remind yourself, this is temporary. It will pass. 2. Observe without attachment. Instead of saying, I am sad, say, there is sadness in me right now. This shift helps you see emotions as passing states, not fixed identities. 3. Let emotions move naturally. Just as you cannot force a storm to end, you cannot force emotions to disappear. Allow them to arise, acknowledge them, and let them flow away without resistance. Replacing negativity with positivity. Once you release negative emotions, you create space for positive energy. Cultivating positivity is an active practice. What you focus on grows. Acts of kindness. Small gestures of kindness, like a smile or a thoughtful word, create a ripple effect of positivity. Surrounding yourself with positivity. Be mindful of what you consume. News, conversations, and social media can influence your emotional state. Choose uplifting and inspiring content. Self-compassion. Speak to yourself with kindness. Replace self-criticism with words of encouragement and understanding. The freedom of letting go is an act of liberation. It frees you from unnecessary suffering and allows you to experience life with openness and peace. When you stop clinging to the past and worrying about the future, you make space for joy, contentment, and true happiness. Applying compassion and gratitude. The power of compassion, or karuna, is at the heart of Buddhist teachings. It is the ability to feel empathy for the suffering of others and a desire to alleviate that suffering. When we cultivate compassion, we shift our focus from our own discomfort to the well-being of others. This shift in perspective reduces self-centered thoughts and emotions, which are often the source of negative feelings. Buddha taught that compassion is a powerful antidote to negative emotions such as anger, fear, and resentment. These emotions arise when we focus on our own desires, frustrations, and insecurities. By practicing compassion, we soften our hearts and open ourselves to a deeper sense of connection and peace. 1. Compassion toward others. When you encounter someone struggling or in pain, instead of judging them or feeling frustrated, respond with kindness. Recognize their humanity and extend compassion. This act not only benefits them but also reduces any negative emotions you may have been holding onto. 2. Self-compassion. Often we are our own harshest critics. We judge ourselves for mistakes or imperfections. Compassion toward oneself means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. Instead of berating yourself, acknowledge your struggles, and offer yourself the same love and care that you give to others. 3. Compassion as a practice. Like any other skill, compassion requires practice. You can start by practicing loving kindness, metta, meditation, where you focus on sending loving thoughts to yourself, your loved ones, and even those you find challenging. Compassion as a natural antidote to negative emotions. Negative emotions, when left unchecked, can become overwhelming and even consume our mental state. By practicing compassion, we create an emotional shift that moves us from a place of self-centeredness to one of shared humanity. 1. Compassion and anger. When you feel angry or frustrated, pause and ask yourself, what is it about this situation or person that is triggering me? Often, our anger stems from a sense of being wronged or misunderstood. By cultivating compassion, we can shift our perspective, understanding that everyone has their own struggles and that their actions may not be directed at us personally. 2. Compassion and fear. Fear often arises when we feel separate or disconnected from others. Compassion fosters connection, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. When we extend compassion to others, we begin to see the shared human experience and fear loses its grip. 3. Compassion and resentment. Holding on to resentment keeps us tied to past experiences, preventing us from moving forward. By cultivating compassion for those who have hurt us, we release ourselves from the emotional chains of resentment. This does not mean condoning harmful behavior, but it does mean letting go of the emotional burden and finding peace. The practice of gratitude. Gratitude is another powerful tool for cultivating positivity and reducing negativity. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of appreciating the present moment and all that we have, rather than focusing on what we lack or what has gone wrong. When we practice gratitude, we shift our energy from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. 1. Finding things to be grateful for. Every day, take time to reflect on at least one thing you are grateful for. It could be something as simple as a warm meal, a kind gesture from a friend, or the beauty of nature. The more you practice this, the more you begin to notice the abundance of good in your life. 2. Gratitude and the present moment. Gratitude keeps us grounded in the present. When we focus on what we are thankful for, we stop ruminating on past regrets or future worries. We are fully present in the moment, appreciating what is here and now. 3. Gratitude and happiness. A grateful heart is a happy heart. Studies show that gratitude is strongly correlated with greater happiness and well-being. The more you practice gratitude, the more you begin to see the world through a lens of positivity. Gratitude as a daily practice. Just as mindfulness and compassion require practice, so does gratitude. It is not something that simply happens. It is something we must intentionally cultivate. 1. Gratitude journaling. One of the most effective ways to nurture a sense of gratitude is to keep a gratitude journal. Every evening, write down 3 things you are grateful for that day. They don't have to be grand gestures, just simple moments of beauty or kindness that you experienced. 2. Gratitude meditation. Another practice is to meditate on gratitude. Sit quietly, take a few deep breaths, and think about the things you are grateful for. Focus on the feeling of appreciation in your heart and allow it to expand. 3. Expressing gratitude. Practice expressing gratitude to others. A simple thank you can go a long way in building positive relationships and creating an atmosphere of goodwill. The transformative power of compassion and gratitude. When we combine compassion and gratitude, we create a powerful foundation for a positive and peaceful life. These practices not only help us manage negative emotions but also help us cultivate lasting joy and contentment. 1. Compassion and gratitude in relationships. When we approach relationships with compassion and gratitude, we strengthen our connections with others. Instead of focusing on what's wrong or what's missing, we choose to see the good and appreciate the efforts of those around us. 2. Compassion and gratitude toward ourselves. Self-compassion and self-gratitude are just as important as extending them to others. By being kind and thankful for ourselves, we nourish our own sense of worth and create a positive internal environment. 3. Living a life of abundance. Compassion and gratitude allow us to experience life as abundant, rather than lacking. When we practice these qualities, we realize that the world is full of goodness and opportunity, and we have everything we need to live a joyful, meaningful life. Compassion and gratitude are 2 of the most powerful tools we have to cultivate positivity in our lives. By practicing compassion toward others and ourselves, we reduce negative emotions and foster deeper connections. Through gratitude, we shift our mindset from scarcity to abundance, bringing more joy and peace into our daily lives. When we make compassion and gratitude part of our daily routine, we begin to transform not only our own hearts but also the world around us. Living simply and letting go for a peaceful mind. The complexity of desire and stress in today's world. Complexity is everywhere. We are constantly bombarded with information, choices, and demands. We are conditioned to chase more success, more possessions, more recognition, more happiness. However, the more we chase, the more we find ourselves overwhelmed and stressed. This constant striving, rooted in desire and attachment, creates turbulence in our minds. In Buddhist philosophy, it is understood that craving and clinging to the impermanent things of this world lead to suffering. Buddha taught that desire is the root of all suffering. We desire things, experiences, or even certain outcomes, and when they don't align with our expectations, we feel disappointment, frustration, and anxiety. The complexity of our desires fills our minds with unnecessary clutter, making it harder for us to find peace. Buddhist teachings suggest that instead of adding more complexity, we should learn to simplify. The path to simplicity. Living simply does not mean living without joy or fulfillment. It means prioritizing what truly matters and letting go of distractions and unnecessary attachments. By living simply, we can focus on the present moment and cultivate peace of mind. This is the essence of Buddhist practice, to reduce the noise of desires and bring our attention back to what is essential. 1. Simplify your thoughts. The mind tends to overcomplicate things. We think about the future, relive the past, or overanalyze the present moment. These distractions take us away from the peaceful simplicity of the now. Mindfulness meditation, or the practice of being aware of our thoughts without attachment, helps us stop the cycle of overthinking. Instead of judging or analyzing our thoughts, we simply observe them and let them pass, like clouds in the sky. 2. Simplify your actions. Many of us lead busy lives caught up in constant activity and productivity. While action is essential, it can also create stress if it's driven by excessive desire for achievement. Simplifying your actions means focusing on what is most meaningful to you and eliminating the unnecessary. It means doing things with intention without rushing and being present in every task. By slowing down and focusing on one thing at a time, we can reduce stress and bring more peace into our lives. 3. Simplify your possessions. In a consumer-driven society, it's easy to fall into the trap of accumulating more possessions, believing that they will bring us happiness. However, material possessions do not bring lasting fulfillment. In fact, they often create clutter in our lives, both physically and mentally. By embracing a minimalist approach, we can free ourselves from attachment to things and focus on the experiences and relationships that truly matter. The power of letting go is another key component of living simply. We often hold on to things, whether they are material possessions, emotions, or expectations, because we fear losing control. Letting go can be challenging, but it is essential for mental peace. Buddhist teachings on impermanence remind us that everything is transient. Nothing lasts forever and everything changes. When we learn to let go, we release ourselves from the illusion of control. This doesn't mean we stop caring or that we become indifferent to life. It means we accept the natural flow of life and trust that change is a part of our journey. 1. Letting go of expectations. Expectations are often the source of disappointment and frustration. When we expect things to go a certain way and they don't, we experience suffering. By letting go of rigid expectations, we open ourselves to the possibility of things unfolding in their own time and in their own way. We can still strive for our goals, but we do so with the understanding that the outcome is not entirely in our control. This acceptance allows us to let go of frustration and embrace what is. 2. Letting go of attachments. Attachment to people, possessions, or even ideas creates a sense of possessiveness that weighs us down. We cling to the belief that we need these things to be happy. However, true happiness comes from within, not from external sources. Letting go of attachments means realizing that we are enough as we are. We don't need anything outside ourselves to feel complete. By practicing detachment, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes with wanting and needing more. 3. Letting go of the past and future. We often hold on to past regrets or future worries, both of which create tension in the mind. Buddha teaches us that the past is gone and the future is not yet here. The only moment that truly exists is the present. By letting go of the past and future, we can fully embrace the present moment with clarity and peace. The joy of simplicity. When we let go of unnecessary desires and attachments, we create space for a deeper sense of joy and contentment. Simplifying our lives allows us to focus on what is truly important: our relationships, our health, and our inner peace. This simplicity is not about deprivation but about finding joy in the present moment and appreciating the small, everyday things. 1. Appreciating what you have. In the pursuit of more, we often forget to appreciate what we already have. A simple life encourages gratitude and contentment. When we let go of the desire for more, we begin to notice the richness of the present moment. We can find joy in the beauty of nature, the warmth of a kind word, or the simple pleasure of a peaceful afternoon. 2. Living with intention. A simple life is a life lived with intention. Instead of rushing through tasks and activities, we take time to consider our values and priorities. We make conscious choices that align with our true desires, and not with societal expectations. Living with intention helps us create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. 3. Peace in the present moment. The greatest joy comes when we stop chasing external desires and find peace within. Simplicity allows us to slow down and embrace the present. When we are fully present in each moment, we experience a deep sense of peace and tranquility. This inner peace is not dependent on anything external. It comes from within, from our ability to let go and accept life as it is. Living simply and letting go are powerful tools for cultivating inner peace. In a world that constantly encourages us to chase more, simplicity offers a path to contentment. By reducing complexity in our thoughts, actions, and possessions, and by letting go of expectations and attachments, we can create space for peace, joy, and mindfulness. Buddhist teachings remind us that true happiness comes not from external achievements but from the clarity and tranquility that arises when we simplify our lives and let go of unnecessary burdens. By embracing simplicity, we can find the peace and contentment that we seek right here and right now. Conclusion: happiness is not something that comes from external circumstances or possessions. It's a state of mind, a way of being that arises from within us. The truth is that our emotions are not permanent, they come and go just like the weather. When we understand this truth, we can learn to observe our emotions without being overwhelmed by them. We can stop identifying with our emotions and see them for what they are, temporary visitors passing through our minds. Buddhist teachings offer a profound understanding of how to achieve peace by focusing on our inner world. By practicing mindfulness, we can bring ourselves into the present moment, where we are fully aware of our thoughts, feelings, and reactions. Instead of being swept away by every emotional wave, we can observe them, accept them, and let them go. This is the essence of emotional freedom, choosing not to be controlled by fleeting emotions but to remain anchored in the present moment. Letting go is one of the most powerful practices in Buddhism. The more we hold on to our emotions, attachments, and expectations, the more we suffer. But when we learn to release these things, we create space for peace. This does not mean we stop feeling, but rather that we no longer let those feelings control us. We allow ourselves to experience our emotions fully, without clinging to them or running from them. Compassion is another essential aspect of Buddhist practice that can transform our emotional landscape. When we cultivate compassion, not just for others but for ourselves, we create an environment where negative emotions naturally dissipate. Compassion softens the harshness of criticism and judgment, replacing them with understanding and love. By being kind to ourselves and others, we create a peaceful and supportive environment that nourishes our hearts and minds. Gratitude also plays a crucial role in our emotional well-being. When we focus on the things we are grateful for, we shift our perspective from scarcity to abundance. We move away from feelings of lack and dissatisfaction and start to appreciate what we already have. A heart filled with gratitude is naturally positive, open, and at peace with the present moment. Finally, happiness is a choice. It's about learning to direct our thoughts and emotions in a way that aligns with our values and deeper truths. By practicing mindfulness, letting go, cultivating compassion, and nurturing gratitude, we can create a life of peace and joy. It's not about searching for happiness outside of ourselves but recognizing that true contentment lies in how we relate to our inner world. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful lessons from Buddhism. May your journey toward inner peace and happiness be filled with clarity, love, and understanding.